what we sound like. Time to join our House of Speed hotline. He covers recruiting for Big Red Report magazine and BigRedReport.com. Bryan Munson. See, I got his name right.
Nice.
Good to have
Pat
you
Munson
here.
Today.
We've had a lot of good news over the course of the last month or two about Husker football recruiting. They've got more kids verbally committed than they did at this time last year, but they lost one of them over the weekend. Who was he and why?
Tre'vell Dixon from Louisiana. You know, this is an interesting one to me because, first of all, this was a commitment that Nebraska received by not even having him visit. And I think that needs to be said over and over and over again, guys. I mean, I don't think that I don't think that, number one, that it happens. It happens that guys will go ahead and commit to a school and not visit beforehand. But eventually, though, and I would say it's one of the immediate things that those players decide to do, they need to get out there and make that trip, check that school out, and make sure that they've made the right decision, or at least just to kind of verify what it is they've heard from the coaches or whoever it was that was telling about the school. But I think also, number two, a big part of this is Corey Raymond was a recruiting coach for Dixon. This is a guy that really recruited him in, and then Corey Raymond leaves to go to LSU. There's also the coaching connection that was there between Corey Raymond and Dixon was through the head coach at his high school. And that head coach has since moved on for another job as well. So there's a lot of broken ties that were there between Nebraska. And it's not a shock at all to me. Also, I would say on a personality perspective, guys, this class to me is a very fun group of individuals to get a chance to talk to. All very personable. And I would say that just one of the glaring things to me when you had to talk about all the kids that I've spoken to throughout the year, the one guy that just didn't fit personality-wise was Dixon.
The thing that I find sort of surprising, I guess recruit Nicks would in general, is that if he was going to decommit from Nebraska, it would probably be because LSU had offered him a scholarship, and that's not the case.
Yeah, that's even more bizarre. I mean, there's no SEC offers, at least that we know about, that I know about, that he even has a chance to even commit to. I mean, I know Arizona State, I think, is out there for him, and that was one of the schools I think that supposedly he was looking at. And I know Nebraska is, according to him, still into the discussion or in the picture. I just don't think so. I just don't think that there's enough there to pull him to Nebraska again. And it's going to be interesting to see how Nebraska really responds to this. Nebraska hasn't done a great job in rebounding from losing kids in the class. Go back to like the Tevin Mitchell, how they never got a guy to replace him. It's going to be interesting. I know there's a lot of time on their sides. I know they've been very aggressive with the class so far. It's going to be interesting to see, in comparison to years past, how will Nebraska go after getting another guy to play that spot again at safety.
You mentioned that Tevin Mitchell decommitted, and I know that they always emphasize DBs and safeties. Where do they stand with some of the better guys on the list? Because they've done very well at linebacker. Cornerback has been a troubling spot, hasn't it?
Cornerback has been a troubling spot. I mean, that's just a spot that Nebraska has not been able to really nail down a guy or two. And in fact, I would be hard-pressed to sit here and tell you that, hey, this guy and this guy are both reasonable candidates to jump in the class. I don't think that there really is one. I think one guy that's kind of jumped up my list from a safety perspective that I was going to throw at you guys was McEnroe Alexander from Florida. A twin brother with talented Mackenzie Alexander. I don't think Mackenzie is really considering Nebraska as much as McEnroe is, but I think McEnroe is the kind of guy that really Nebraska would love to bring in because he's more of a linebacker playing the safety spot. But I mean, even besides him, I mean, you're thankful right now that you've got guys like Jerry and you got guys like McWilson in the class at the safety spot. Although neither one of those guys are, athletic enough or have the hips really to go ahead and play the cornerback spot where they could do a dual thing or even provide some support like playing nickel or dime. They're more traditional safeties.
Talking with Bryan Munson of Big Red Report and BigRedReport.com here on the Gaskins and Stephens Show on the Ticket. A while back ago, about a month ago, after the Big Red Weekend, it hasn't even been that long ago, that we thought that maybe one of the guys that would commit would be Zach Hannon. Now we're hearing that he kind of likes Arkansas. Where's Nebraska stand with him?
Very interesting. Zach Hannon was really my pick to jump in next in the class. I still feel good about it, that I think he does end up a Husker, but there are definitely some smoke signals coming up from the Arkansas camp that he could be potentially leaning that way. This would be a big loss, in my opinion, about if Nebraska were to lose this guy, because you start looking at what Nebraska has been doing recruiting-wise when they start talking about the general radius of Lincoln. If you lose a Hannon and you've already lost a Morrow, I know that there was this number that was thrown out by Coach Ells on June 13th at I think it was the 101 class up there in Lincoln or whatever, that, out of 200 some odd offers, they'd only offered 24 players in the 500-mile radius. Well, in the 250-mile radius, it had to be just a handful, and I think that people are not looking at that correctly. I think Nebraska is recruiting that 250-mile radius. I think they're recruiting that 500-mile radius. The real concern there, by me anyway, is that Nebraska has to be effective in those two radiuses. They have to be able to get, it's got to be better than a coin flip for the kids that are in the 250-mile. I mean, you have to be effective in the 500-mile radius to get guys that you want out of that radius. I mean, it's kind of like drawing a parallel with what they got going in Austin, guys. You want to go ahead and say that Nebraska has state boundaries like the state of Texas. You can't do it without going ahead and grabbing up the Dakotas and putting Colorado into there, putting Kansas into there, and Iowa and Missouri. You have to be effective in that the vicinity of Lincoln, and you have to go out 250 to 500 miles, and you have to start thinking about who the realistic guys are that you can get out of those areas.